What's up, people, world, and happy 420 to you. I can't make it the whole day without doing a video about 420. It's, of course, falling on Easter and everything is not too common because it's Easter Sunday, so Easter fluctuates. My birthday fluctuates as well. My birthday sometimes falls on Thanksgiving, and sometimes it doesn't. But 420 being a stoner holiday is it's kind of a funny thing. I grew up uh, smoking in the 90s, basically. I think I started smoking pot around 1990, and sometime during my high school years, this whole 420 thing started becoming popular. And of course, it had been popular before that, back in the 70s, but it kind of resurfaced. And it's funny because the same thing happened with kind of that whole hippie movement, if you will. It kind of resurfaced in the mid 90s. And I guess I was part of that because I went to a lot of dead shows and wore tie dyes and had hair down to my butt and wore it in braids and full blown, like, modern hippie. It was kind of a joke, but, we all have our styles as we're growing up. And there are very few kids out there that didn't have some sort of phases they went through. I went through that and the skater phase and the heavy metal phase and all that. But the 420 deal, regardless of where it came from, because there were so many like there's like somebody saying some people said, well, 420 was the code for pot in a certain county. I think it was down in Southern California somewhere. And other people said that no, 420 is the amount of chemicals, active chemicals that are in cannabis, which isn't true. Um, uh, People have gone on to say it's Hitler's birthday and all these different things. Columbine happened on 420, which kind of mars the day, but it's kind of a joke to think, that that stoners need a holiday. I was actually going to take the day to not smoke pot. Be like, well, I'll make it the one day I don't puff. But didn't I make it very far? And 420 was always a nice time to get together with your friends and smoke a bowl at school or wherever you were at work, break away. It was a time when people could look at each other and be like, yeah, we're puffing. But it's just a time. And so, rather than make this video about 420, I really wanted to move from cannabis into Rastafarianism because I figured on a day, yesterday was a Rastafarian holiday, and I didn't know that until today, but I was interested in knowing the roots of Rastafarianism, because one thing that's always kind of bothered me, not bothered me, I just haven't understood it, is why uh, you'd hear Bob Marley, he would sing about, I and Haile Selassie I and Jah Rastafari, and then in his later years he started talking more about Jesus. And so I always wondered, was he a reborn Christian? But of course, to understand that, you have to understand where, the roots of Rastafarianism are, or Rastafari, um, and that Jah is Jesus. Jah is the name that they gave to Jesus. But in their belief, Jesus is black. And it's really interesting because the religion got formed right after 1900, around 1913, during World War I time, and there are many different sects and groups, denominations of it, but pretty much all of them believe that a few of the same things. The cannabis is considered a sacred plant. It's considered part of the practice and ritual. Alcohol is to be abstained from because it pollutes the temple, and then along with certain other foods and meats. Um, and it follows the pattern of so many other religions through history that have omitted certain things that are dangerous to the culture, such as by saying alcohol is dangerous to the temple, but cannabis isn't. It's because they know that smoking marijuana creates a pacifism and an understanding. It promotes thought, deep thinking. And alcohol, on the other hand, promotes violence very often and Nothing is gained mentally by thinking, well, you're on alcohol. Alcohol has really no medicinal use for the brain, as far as I'm concerned. So they knew this, and they knew that it would cause more problems with drunkards than stoners, and so obviously that was, written into the religion. But it was based on Old Testament, and they actually took and created their own book, their own Bible. I can't remember what it's called, but it's based on the Christian Bible, but it is, or not the Christian Bible, sorry, the Old Testament. Um, and it is, they've taken and removed a whole bunch of stuff that they considered the Word of God that had been tainted by the white man in translation. So they basically created their own Bible, took the parts that they wanted. This has happened so many times, but through history, but you can see it happen so clearly with them. And it's very, I don't know. I never really knew that much about it. Haile Selassie is who they talk about, and he was a leader, and he actually was not even he didn't consider himself a divine leader. He told Rastafarians that, no, I am just a man, and he said no man should ever worship another man. We're all mortal men, and I am not divine. But they still refused to believe it, and they still considered him divine. And that's what yesterday's holiday was the time that he traveled to Jamaica. And that was actually the same time that Bob Marley's wife was converted, that converted to Rastafarianism because she claimed that she saw stigmata on his hands, and that he was truly divine. It's fascinating to see these things happen, how, when a certain person claims to have seen something, or you can't really dispute it, you can't prove it or dispute it, but so many people follow that person if the person has good, outstanding character in their society. So if it's a person with high value in their society and they say something, people listen. This has always been the case. But I kind of find it interesting that that they consider him black, because I don't hold it against them, because I understand that at that time there was a lot of slavery going on. Some sects of Rastafarianism, they don't even like to use the ism, because that's why they say Rastafari, because isms are things that they were trying to avoid to get away from those cultures that had those types of dogmatic beliefs. But they did have their own dogmatic beliefs, and they thought that the white man was corrupt, and if white men came to your country, and like Jamaica, and colonized it, you would feel the same way. So this was their way of saying, we need to stay strong, we need to remain proud of our heritage, even if the white men are coming and taking our land. And you see how this turned into racism on the part of the Rastafari. They became racists in their own right, but only through defense of their culture. Because it was like, we see the white man being a racist, so we're going to be a racist back to them. This is carried on to today's culture, where the black rappers are able to, you know, basically put down white people and say nigga this, nigga that, but I can say it because I'm black, and it gets ridiculous after a while. Like, I'm not a racist, but I feel like I've actually been, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I've had that feeling of being racially profiled by another culture. It's funny because you wouldn't think it happens to white people, but it happens a lot to white people, especially if you stick your neck out in certain issues. But I've been actually, I've felt really, really harsh about the way I've been treated by many Native Americans, by saying that my ancestors did this, my ancestors did that, and that, some reason I owe them reparations for it. And I don't understand the mentality of an understanding culture trying to gain money from people in modern day for what their great-great-grandfathers did, people they never met or understood. That's carrying the racism into the modern day, and these issues become really touchy with people. That to me is racism. That's saying that since you are white, you should have to pay reparations. Now, I'm not just saying Native Americans here. This has happened with blacks and with slavery, and perhaps that's more of a touchy issue with the government of the United States. But as it stands, it's almost like we have to throw down all of our all of our arms now and just say, okay, here we are. How do we start over? Racism isn't going away. Rastafarianism was kind of an interesting look for me into how the black community defended themselves in Jamaica against the tyranny of, British colonization. And what would you do? I mean, there have been no white lands colonized, really. If that happens, it's considered a war or a territorial dispute. But so many lands were colonized in the past. I mean, South Africa is like you can't even go there. I don't even know where to go with that. It's I guess what I'm getting at is that all of the different things and walls we've created in the past over race and religion, uh, they're all they all have to come down, and it has to come down between those who hold grudges against people because of the color of their skin for what their ancestors did too. And when the Black Jesus thing was always interesting to me. Of course, it would have to be a Black Jesus. I mean, they're priding themselves. It's no different than Western white Jesus that I see all over the place. That to me is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. Jesus, a white man? And nobody really questions it. A white man with blue eyes and blonde hair. I mean, come on. Um, let's get real. We deify just about, anyone we do deify, we do it in a way that reflects our culture. So every religion does it, and it's not just religion. It's science. It's culture in general. Art is influenced. Everything is influenced by environment. So it is what it is, I guess, and I'll leave you with that. Happy 420, and Rastafari.